Thank you for being here. I am so sorry that I didn't have a video out last week, but for those of you who know, I am a disabled veteran. So sometimes I have good days and I have bad days, and last week was just kind of an off week for me. But I'm back and I'm here and we are ready to go. So before I start today's case, I'm going to add a warning. So viewer discretion is advised, as we will be talking about rape and sexual assault, as well as victim blaming. So we've talked a few times on our original Cozy Crime Time about cases that have made impacts and ripples through time. This case is no different. I almost didn't want to talk about this case as there is a lot of triggering information about rape, but this case has consequences that we still feel to this day. This crime was one of the first televised rape cases. And this case truly amplified why women do not come forward after being raped, assaulted, or molested. This is still something that women battle with in 2024. And that's just not okay. During the Me Too movement, the ability to talk about this taboo subject was more open, but it didn't last long, and we were back to it being super hush-hush. If we were hush-hush now, imagine how it was for women before us. So we're going to travel back in time to the 1980s to talk about how this was perceived back then. March 6, 1983, when she was just 21 years old, Cheryl had spent the day celebrating her daughter's 3rd birthday, and while her high school sweetheart and boyfriend stayed at home to watch the football game and keep an eye on the girls, she went out to dinner with a girlfriend. Once the ladies had finished dinner, they went their own ways, and on their way home, Cheryl decided that she needed to stop at her usual store to grab a pack of cigarettes. When she got to the store, she realized that it was not open. She knew that Big Dan's Tavern had a vending machine, so she stopped there to pick up a pack of cigarettes. There's no exact amount of time as to how long Cheryl spent at Big Dan's, but what we do know is that she went in, she had a drink, noted that she did not seem to be drunk in any way. She was socializing with other female patrons and a waitress that she knew. After all the other women had left, about 12 to 15 men were left enjoying their night. Before Cheryl could notice, one of the men locked the door behind her. Cheryl got up and she was headed to the bar to leave. In that moment, she felt her clothes being tugged at. And at this point, Joseph Vieira and Daniel Silva attacked her. They began ripping off her clothing. She was stripped completely naked by this point. Suddenly, a third man grabbed her from behind and threw her onto the pool table in the bar. Once she was on the pool table, the most terrifying 2-hour experience of her life unfolded. Cheryl was raped multiple times by multiple men over the next 2 hours. She kicked and screamed and tried to fight off the men that were raping her. All of this happened while other patrons, except for the bartender, who attempted to call 911, but was blocked by Virgilio Medeiros and one of the patrons who was passed out drunk in the corner, were cheering on the men. She could hear them saying, go for it, like it was a baseball game, but while laughing and cheering. Cheryl continued to fight against the men, and she finally got free and ran out. She was in just a ripped sweater, one sock, and nothing else. She tried to flag down a car to save her, and luckily, brothers Dan and Michael O'Neill and their friend were driving by. Dan was later quoted as saying, "I was slouched against the window when my brother saw this girl run out of the bar and run up the street. He shouted at us, 'Naked girl in the street! Naked girl in the street!' I thought to myself, yeah, right. But there she was, standing in front of the truck like a deer in the headlights." Cheryl was distraught. And when Daniel approached her, she threw her arms around his neck, crying uncontrollably. She was not only one who ran out of the bar, though. Some of her assailants ran out as well. But once they saw that there was a truck there and there were men obviously helping her, they went back into the bar. The O'Neill brothers called the police, and Cheryl thought of only her 2 daughters and their futures when she came forward and told the police everything. Later that month, arrests were made of 4 men. Victor Raposo, John Cadario, Joseph Vieras, and Daniel Silva were all charged with aggravated rape. 2 other men, Virgilio Medeiros and Jose Medeiros, who are not related, arrested and charged with joint enterprise. Joint enterprise is defined as encouraging an illegal act and not acting to stop it. So all 6 men were part of the Portuguese American community, and that was 60% of the population of New Bedford. So it was a large concentration of the New Bedford population. Protests started from both sides of the debate as the 2 trials did loom over the 6 men who were in custody. 2,500 people joined in protest against the men, demanding that they be prosecuted for their crimes. Ethnic slurs and xenophobic overtones blaming the Portuguese as a whole is not helpful in this case at all. But to the slurs, the attacks on the victims started. The community raised over $20,000 to bail out the men, and 7,000 to 10,000 people were involved in the protest. Hustler magazine even ran a fake postcard in their magazine featuring a naked woman on a pool table, and the caption read, "Greetings from New Bedford, Massachusetts, the Portuguese gang rape capital of the world." This is unacceptable and disgusting. How Hustler magazine thought that was an okay thing to do, I'm not sure, but here we are. Once the trial began, it was kind of a mess. So there was one trial being held for just the 4 men accused of aggravated rape. So that was John, Victor, Joseph, and Daniel. Another trial was being held for Virgilio and Jose for the joint enterprise. Ethnic tensions grew, and so did the media presence on the case. And some believe that they did this so that the men could not turn on each other. So people believed that they did the trial for all 4 men together so that the men could not say, "Oh, well, no, it wasn't me, it was him," and things like that. Whereas if they're doing trials together, they have all of them together, all their lawyers are together, and they can make the case as a whole. During the trials, they had 4 defendants in one courtroom with 4 respected lawyers. So you can only imagine how chaotic that could have been. Due to the news being so interested in the case, the judge did allow for the whole trial to be on live TV. This was played 3 hours a day on CNN. People would even stop watching their soap operas just to watch this case because it was drama enough. This was the first ever rape case to be televised, and the judge did have stipulations, as there are laws against what can be put into the media and not when it comes to certain cases. The press could not show a picture of Cheryl. She would come and go in a large floppy hat and things such as that. They were not allowed to put her name in the papers. All bases were covered, and they moved on with the trial. They couldn't talk about her, they couldn't show pictures of her, they couldn't give any information about her in the papers and everything. She was just the victim. Cheryl had been born and raised and lived her whole entire life in New Bedford. It's all she knew. She knew everyone in the town, and this was her home. She took a substantial risk in reporting her rape and was beyond brave in doing so, especially at this time. While on trial, everyone had opinions. Men and women alike were interviewed, and some women were quoted as saying, "People don't ask to be raped. They do not ask to be defiled or degraded." And that's true. Women talked about their own horrifying experiences. They shared how once you are raped, you are changed forever. Also true. Once you have this horrible experience happen to you, that changes you forever. You never fully return to the person that you were before. Men and women in the community fought that there was a true and present difference between consensual sex and rape, going as far as to acknowledge that it was in fact a violent offense and should be treated as so. There was, however, another side to this, as there always is. One person was interviewed and quoted as saying, "Rape is only rape when a woman that initially consented later becomes vindictive." That's appalling. That's disgusting, and that is not how rape works. In another interview, a woman was quoted as saying, "A man only rapes a woman if she wants it." This, again, is not how rape works. Rape and consensual sex are completely different. This is not the worst, unfortunately. In the courtroom, like I said, there were 4 lawyers, one of which was a female. The words and questions from the lawyers were just as bad. One of the men's attorneys stated that she had consented, and then one thing led to another. I'm not sure how this was considered consensual anyway, as she was crying and screaming for help during the whole entire ordeal. As it was time for Cheryl to testify, no one had discussed how this would play out. She walked up, she put her hand on the Bible, she swore to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and then right there on national TV, on CNN, they asked her to state her name and her address while her face was fully shown on TV. She did so, and her identity was now compromised. Everyone knew who she was. She went on the stand and she told the court exactly what happened to her that night. She held nothing back. The defense lawyer started in on her. Edward Harrington asked her, "If you're living with a man, then what are you running around the streets getting raped?" As if she was out there walking around just looking to be raped. They asked her what she was wearing. That doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're wearing a mini skirt. It doesn't matter if you're wearing sweatpants. It doesn't matter. Rape is still rape. They asked her why she left her kids alone. Remember, they're not alone. They were at home, safe with their father. These are things so many victims hear when they come forward. As if how a person dresses or if you want to go out with a friend is a reason to be molested, assaulted, or raped. One of the female lawyers even said to her in court, "Women have a responsibility by their words and by their behavior to say no." I absolutely believe that Cheryl did just that, not only with her words, but also with her behavior. If you are fighting off someone, that is telling them no. What she was trying to say with that statement was that Cheryl did not say no, therefore making it consensual. They didn't stop there, though. They accused her of smoking marijuana. They asked her if she had it in her home. They asked her if it was typical for her to go into a rowdy bar. The victim blaming in this case was at an all-time high, but the prosecution came back at them with witnesses, one of which was a police officer working that case. They had been at the scene and stated that on her inner thigh was a bruise that looked like a handprint. Another witness stated that he had never seen anyone so scared in their life. Sorry, this one's a little emotional. The 4 men were found guilty of aggravated rape. They served at most 6.5 years in prison. The 2 men charged with joint enterprise were acquitted. Cheryl did file a lawsuit against Big Dan's for $10 million after the rape, but it was dropped when it was found out that the owner was broke. The bar shut down permanently soon after. The 4 men did appeal the verdict, but they still did serve time. After her identity was given, Cheryl began to live in fear. Death threats were made against her. People would say things like she should have been at home in the first place. She would go on to hear people say that she should be hanged. People were calling into radio stations talking about the case. They would state that she was dead meat. One woman even told the local news that she should be punished too. If they raped her, She was the aggravator. I'm sorry to say it, but I think it was her. Cheryl was not the only one receiving these threats, though. The O'Neill brothers, who helped her when she escaped, received threats as well. Her sister, she wasn't spared either. After the trial, Cheryl, her sister, her boyfriend, and their 2 daughters left the only home that they had ever known. They picked up and they moved to Miami, Florida, March of 1984. Once in Florida, she started to try to get her life back on track. She entered school to be a secretary, and she did apparently at some point make $10,000 for selling the rights to her story for a book and a movie. On December 14th, 1986, at 4:46 p.m., Cheryl tragically was in a car accident. Her and her daughters were on the way home from a Christmas show when she lost control of her car and hit a cement utility pole. Her daughters survived with a broken arm and a minor injury, but Cheryl died of multiple injuries. There are sources that say that she was drunk when the crash occurred, and some say she was not. She was, however, dealing with an alcohol addiction in the months prior, and she had spent 6 months in rehab for alcohol abuse in women. This woman had been through so much, and due to one terrible tragedy where 4 men thought that they could do whatever they wanted, she lost her life. 2 little girls have had to grow up without a mother, and her family lost a piece of itself. In 1984, the Senate held a hearing examining the efforts of allowing the New Bedford trial to be aired on television, and it was quoted, "Rare is a woman who can endure both the trauma of rape and the trauma of highly publicized trial." This whole trial and horrific rape caused steps back in the comfortability of women reporting violent sexual crimes. We still feel the repercussions of it to this day. Having a woman be raped and then berated and victim shamed on national TV for the whole world to see was the worst thing that could have happened to her and to the world. Statistics from the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network indicate that 3 in 4 victims of sexual assault do not report sexual assault. A movie was made based off of this story in 1988, and it's called The Accused, if you want to go and watch it. But that's all I have today. Sorry for getting a little emotional about this one. I'm so glad you all could be here. If you have any cases that you'd like me to talk about or anything like that, please reach out on my Discord. I'm so thankful for all of you, and I hope you guys have a great weekend and a great week, and I will be back here next Friday with another video. Again, I apologize for the delay, and I apologize. Things happen in life. Stay safe out there, eat your veggies, drink your water, and be amazing. Have a great weekend. Bye.